Hello and welcome to Voice of Rio Grande. I'm Dr. Donna Mitchell, Dean of the College of Professional and Technical Studies, with my co-host, Dr. Heather Duda, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. It's good to see you again today, Heather.
It's good to be here. I always enjoy doing this with you.
It's fun. What a beautiful day on campus.
Isn't it though? Have you had an opportunity to walk across campus at all today?
I have. The weather's perfect. The students are out enjoying it. It's just a beautiful day to be at Rio Grande.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, the cold weather's coming.
You know though, I like a little winter weather, so I'm okay with it. As long as, you know, it's mild and no shoveling.
I can go with that. Well, we have some really exciting things happening on campus. Our basketball team has made set some records, as well as our coach. So
yeah.
If you haven't seen any of our basketball players lately, gone to a game, we encourage you to go and watch them play ball. They're doing a really good job. And I think we've got an exciting show today too, Heather.
I do too.
We're focusing on alums today, and we have some really awesome people who are here to share their experiences at Rio Grande with us. And you know, Heather, there's so many people who are alums of Rio Grande, and when I look at what they're doing, it just makes me smile.
Absolutely.
We have physicians, we have nurse practitioners, we have chemists, we have teachers, we have attorneys, and the list goes on and on and on.
It does.
Anything's possible with a Rio education.
Absolutely, and I think that our alum today will show us that you know, you can do anything. A Rio background gets you ready to be wonderful citizens and learners and lifelong learners. So I'm looking forward to hearing their stories.
Me too. And our first guest is Michelle Miller. Hi, Michelle.
Hi,
hello.
how are you? Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm currently Executive Director of the Gallia County Chamber of Commerce. And I do want to say, before we start in, my predecessor, the late Lori Neal, was also an alum of the University of Rio Grande. So, but she was also Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce. And but that's what I do now. I'm over top of the chamber.
That's quite a job. I'm sure that keeps you busy.
It does. We have 222 members now.
Wow.
And keeps us hopping. We have a wide range of businesses, so their needs are different. So it's one of the things beyond helping out the businesses, I like about the job is it's something different every day. So.
Did I hear you say there's something coming up with the chamber?
We do. We have our annual meeting tomorrow evening. So we're right in the middle of planning that. It's our big event of the year, one of our big events of the year.
So it's a busy time for you.
It is, yes. It just depends on the year, or the time of the year.
So would you like to tell us a little bit about your experience at Rio Grande?
I came to the university in 1994, and it was actually the technical theater program that attracted me to the college. I was living in Jackson at the time, and I commuted for the first, part of it. Eventually, it was hard to be a commuter, and that's something maybe you kind of felt disconnected a little bit at first because you weren't on campus, but I ended up pledging Alpha Mu Beta, and met a lot of great friends and people through that, learned a lot through that. And that was, my thing. Everybody has something different. People play sports, and that being part of that organization is really what drew me into the social life of the university, being a commuter and not on campus all the time. So, and I graduated from with an associate's degree in technical theater with the plans to go to New York, and then I met my husband. And I'm here still in Gallia County. I returned and earned my bachelor in English later, and that's kind of my history at university.
Dr. Duda's an English professor as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, English was English has always been my favorite subject. So when I realized that was the way that it was going to go, I wanted to finish my bachelor. spent a lot of time in this building.
Yes. And do you have a one English fan to another, a literature fan to another? Do you have a text you return to over and over and over again?
Shakespeare is all across the board. Shakespeare was I liked a lot of the older Chaucer, and that was where I kind of fell in love with a lot of it. So that's great.
And how did your English degree prepare you then professionally? What sort of was your trajectory after school?
When I left here, I mean, there's not a lot of jobs here for English majors, not maybe where there would be in a big city with a publishing house or. And they had an opening, and I did have a little bit of training in news writing. They had an opening at the Tribune for a news writer, and that I was hired on as that, and I learned the news writing portion of it, but on the job. But it was my writing that, what I learned through the college as far as writing, that allowed me to apply for it in the first place. So. And then from there, I owned my own business for a while. I owned an online news site, and then that led into my current position.
That's wonderful. You talked about being in a sorority as a commuter student, and I think that's a great message to get out there, because sometimes students think, well, I don't live on campus, so I can't be in a sorority.
Yes, and a lot of us were commuters, I think. There was a healthy mix, if I remember right, between commuters and when I was here, and those living on the dorm. And when you live on campus, you do have those opportunities to be more involved. You know what's going on. When you live off campus, it can be a little bit more difficult. So getting involved in something. Once I was involved in something, I was always on campus. Even though I lived off campus, I was always here. I would stay with a sister. We went to the dances and organized things that were going on, and went as a group to different things. So I do think being involved to me is the number one thing that made me enjoy my college experience outside of my classes. And I really did, for me, especially being an English lit major, having the small class sizes. We had maybe 20. We all got to know each other. We could openly argue about what we thought this meant and what we thought that meant. So it was nice.
And you talked about your sorority sisters. Do you still keep in contact with any of those people?
I do. Life unfortunately gets in the way a lot. My kids are 18 and 14. So one's a senior, one's a freshman. So I'm all in between my job, but I do keep in touch with them. I'm not as involved as I would like to be, but that's coming, down the road, hopefully.
Those are lasting friendships.
They are.
They really are.
And Lori was, who I brought up, predecessor, she was one of my sorority sisters.
Oh, okay.
I hear that happen so many times, that people talk about their sorority sister or fraternity brother, and then somehow their paths connect again and again, and those relationships just continue to build other relationships and opportunities for our students.
And any time that you're involved in any type of organization, that gives you somebody to go to later if you're looking for a job or a position.
Right, it gives you a network.
Absolutely.
Can you think of one of your most memorable experiences at Rio Grande?
For me, I have so many.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes, I did.
It was a good experience.
I had so much fun. When I was involved in the theater program, there were so many things that came through there. From the Ohio Lottery, Cash Explosion one time filmed here, and the different major acts that came through for me, and then just getting to know everybody. I mean, the dances, things like that. And I loved my English professors. There were several of them that they knew you on a first name basis, and you could walk in their office and talk to them about things. So that, to me, was my most enjoyable part here.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you
Yes.
for coming and sharing with us. And Heather, I think that theme plays out so many times here, is that the classes are small, the professors are available, and I love to go down the hall and just hear a faculty member and a student discussing something that may not necessarily be a class topic, but just a scholarly discussion.
You know, one of the things that I valued it as a student, and I value it now as an academic, and getting to share that experience with my students, are what we used to call hallway conversations. You can solve the world's problems standing outside a faculty office for about 30 minutes, and anybody who came by would be part of that conversation, and you'd be surprised what you learned, and they're some of the most memorable experiences between faculty and students.
I had many of those in Wood Hall. I really enjoyed my Wood Hall days. We have another guest, Bryna Butler.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Like Michelle, I attended the University of Rio Grande about the same time. I started in the fall in 1993. And after a few years, received a Bachelor of Science degree in Mass Communications. Currently, I'm Vice President Corporate Communications for Ohio Valley Bank, and it was really Rio Grande that led me into that. It actually started out as my university internship at Ohio Valley Bank. I worked at the bank for that internship, and when I was finished, they ended up hiring me.
Great.
Well, that was a great opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, I see that happen so many times in so many different fields, whether it be business, whether it be healthcare. I know sometimes the students who are in healthcare will go into a clinical setting. They will realize they really enjoy this hospital or this facility. The facility really likes the student. And it's an opportunity for a job down the road.
Absolutely. And not only that with the internship, but I know I heard Michelle speak a little bit about the sorority that she was part of. And like her, I was kind of that commuter student that lived with my parents still and came into campus. For me, it wasn't the sororities, it was the Signals newspaper.
Oh, okay.
I had the honor of being the associate editor for the newspaper for a couple of years, and even to this day, touch base with the editor, who's also working in corporate communications locally, and a lot of times we still work on projects to this day.
That's great.
Another Rio connection that just keeps
Absolutely.
on paying off down the road.
Yeah. So what about Rio prepared you for your professional life past Rio?
As part of the mass communications line of study, it was pretty much broadcast journalism. So for the bank, I work with media relations, any kind of communications that we send to the public, and I oversee website and internet and mobile banking, which that's not so much part of corporate communications usually, or the communications line, but some of those practices that I put into studying Rio Grande helped me to put that into that job and do the things that we needed to do.
That's great. Do you feel like Rio prepared you well for the...
I do. One of the things that my professors here encouraged me to do was to, beyond my degree, to reach out to the Public Relations Society of America and receive my accreditation there. Oh, wow. And I did that. You have to have 3 years of work in the business field before you can do that, but as soon as I could, I did that upon a recommendation, and that's been one of the ongoing rewarding and educational things that I've done, and it all got started again right here at Rio.
Okay. Do you have any advice you would offer to new and or current students about how to take advantage of what Rio has to offer?
I know Michelle kind of took my answer to that. Getting involved in the community, I know a lot of students may not live on campus. They might be driving in from the local areas, but find something you're passionate about. Maybe it's not a sorority or fraternity. Maybe it's working on the newspaper, working with one of the different charitable groups that are funneled through the college. Find your passion and work with it, and maybe it's something a little bit different than your job that you're going into, but it's always great to have those networking opportunities for you in the future. One thing that I am probably about most proud of is a few years ago, I actually got a membership to be one of the Friends of Davis Library right here on campus. Yeah. And that's something that I may have never thought about, but I started working through my job at the bank, and I actually do some fiction writing on the side as well. Through those things that I started reaching out to the library more and more, and it's a great facility that it's just been so beneficial to give back to them and see them grow and build, and they've given that back to me tenfold.
That's great. And I think you bring up an important point, is that our alums are such friends of Rio Grande. the connections continue to be made, and you're doing things with the library, and the library is doing things to help you. And so it's just a mutual relationship even down the road for many of our graduates.
Absolutely. I fully agree. And besides the library, just the cable station here and the YouTube channel, just fantastic. I know High Valley Bank, I've been working with the crew here that don't get as much credit as they deserve often, but probably should. But the crew here is fabulous. I've been helping the bank do the Common Sense show that airs the first of every month. And it's just been a great opportunity for the local business of High Valley Bank, but also the University of Rio Grande to give some educational programming back to the community. So lots of opportunities here.
It really is.
Would you have any advice for somebody who's thinking, you know, maybe I will go back to college, I'm not really sure, I don't really know if Rio's right for me?
Well, I'll tell you, when I graduated, I was coming to Rio Grande for a quarter, and then I was going to transfer to Ohio State. And I got through my quarter. Well, I'll stay at Rio Grande for a year, and then I'll transfer to Ohio State. And I'm sure you hear this again and again and again, but Rio Grande has such a great facility here and great staff that if I went to Ohio State, I'm sure I would never get a private moment with a professor or a dean to talk about anything I need to. And there was never a staff member that didn't have time for me here. If you think Rio's not the place for you, maybe you need to look a little bit harder, to be honest, because the price is where it needs to be, the staff is where it needs to be, the facilities are top notch. Try it. Try it. That's all I got to say.
I like your advice because I've talked to other students who told me the same thing. I was going to be here for just a short period of time, maybe a semester, maybe a year. I was going to transfer out. And then many of our students, after 2 years, they finish their associate degree, and their plan is, now I'm finished and I'll go on and enter the work world, and they come back.
Oh,
They
yes,
do.
yes.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a lot of that 2-year degree and then they'll ultimately come back for the 4-year degree. I am a little glad that I chose to do the 4-year degree track first. Rio Grande actually allowed me to do that in under 4 years because the schedule is so accommodating. So there's different aspects you need to keep in mind, but Rio Grande is a great place to do it.
It's great to hear that you did it in under 4 years, because many times they're saying now people are taking 5 years.
Oh,
So to be able to do a bachelor's degree in under 4 years is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So that says something for the type of student we've attracted to.
And the type of student you yourself
Right.
were.
Well, thank you, thank you. But doing that and with the internship, that really allowed me to get into the workforce faster and with those skills that I needed to do that. So it was a great experience.
I think internships are a real strength of some of our programs.
I do too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was waiting for you to ask me about my memorable moment because it's almost like an internship. One of the things that we got to do in the degree that I was pursuing was a radio practicum. And we got to take an hour on the radio station 1 week and do a little show that we wanted to do. And one of my favorite memories is we used to do a show called Dementia with my friend Anita Dement. That's how we come to the name. So we just play whatever songs we felt like playing and chit-chat between, and it was so much fun. But behind that fun, there was always the skill there of being able to produce a show and run the proper equipment to get that on air. So it was a great experience.
It sounds like
Wonderful.
one.
Well, thank you for sharing your time
Thank
with
you
us
very much.
today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, and we're really proud of what you've done.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, Heather, I just don't know how we top that, but we do have another guest who will come on who will be just as delightful as the first two.
Absolutely.
And I'm especially happy about our third guest because she is somebody who is such a supporter of Rio Grande in so many different ways. And she didn't pay me to say that either. But I'm really happy to welcome Kay Ervin to the show. And I've known Kay through her relationship with the Board of Trustees, and then have seen her in the community as well. So welcome, Kay.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you
Welcome.
for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am actually a Rio Grande brat. I was raised on a farm about 2 miles out of Rio Grande, and there was never any doubt in my mind but what I would go to Rio Grande. From the time I was in grade school and hanging on the fence at the playground watching all the college kids go by, I knew that's where I was going to go. So it was planned very early in my life, and I had teachers all the way through elementary school that were Rio Grande graduates, and they were great teachers. So that's where I was headed.
That was your role model then.
Yes, they were my role models and my mentors through life.
And what was your major at Rio?
My major was history and physical education. And I started teaching elementary physical education my first year, and then got into history and physical education at the secondary level. Then my career took another turn, and I went into special education and never really looked back. I loved history and physical education, but really enjoyed special education.
We hear so often that sometimes our students go in a direction that they're not expecting, and it sounds like you did that as well. What about Rio gave you the skills to be able to make that shift successfully, and it sounds like quite happily?
I think I was very well prepared coming out of Rio Grande, especially to do lesson plans and to set goals and objectives for individuals. And my first years of teaching, that was through doing lesson plans in history and physical education, but setting goals and objectives for each class to follow. And then that transferred very nicely over to special education, because individual education plans have to have goals and objectives. And so it was an easy transfer for me, but I cannot say enough about my education here at Rio Grande and being able to do very good lesson plans. I was complimented my second year out of college by a creditor who came to our building to accredit the system, and was told that she wanted to see me after she had observed my class. And I was being very young, I was very frightened of what was going to happen. So she knocked on my door, and she proceeded to tell me it was the best lesson plans that she had seen, and she had really enjoyed my lesson. And I'm very embarrassed to say that I grabbed her and hugged her and kissed her, and then I went, "Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry."
That's a great story.
Yeah.
So you've really had quite a career over the years, and I'm really proud that started at Rio Grande.
Yes.
It started with teaching, and teaching special education. Then I moved into administration later on and retired as the director of special education for the Summit County Board of DD. And have since moved back to the Rio Grande area, and have been doing some independent work and working with children with special needs, and especially children with autism, which I really enjoy doing, and their families, and love that interaction.
You've really maintained a strong connection with the university. What about your experience really drove you to come back and be a presence here with us?
I think that having so many family members involved with the university, the other day I sat down and counted up, and I had 15 family members, either aunts, uncles, cousins, now nieces and nephews that attended Rio Grande. So I really, it was instilled in me at a very early age by cousins of my father's who graduated. The one lady was a graduate in 1917, and she brought me to everything at the college when I was in high school. The alumni, and she was very active in alumni, and she instilled in me, you need to give back. You need to give back. This is a wonderful facility, and you need to always be involved. So I said, when I was asked to be on the board of trustees, I could feel her on my shoulder saying, "Okay, now's your time, you need to give back." So.
And you certainly do through your involvement with the Board of Trustees.
Yes.
Well, I've enjoyed it very much. thinking about student success and how we can improve our educational quality here on an ongoing basis. And I really love what I see here. I think that we have very good programs. And let me emphasize that I don't think it's all about just classwork, but it's about learning social skills as well. And I think that's very important.
I agree.
You've been very active on the board. I know that you chaired the Academic Affairs Subcommittee for several years and then co-chaired it. And I know that you have watched what's happened at Rio carefully. You've been an involved board member. You've held our feet to the fire at times when they needed to be there.
And I've enjoyed your interaction in that committee, and I always enjoyed seeing your face at that committee too.
But I think that that speaks well of you and your love of Rio Grande, and that you're willing to get involved, roll your sleeves up, and work to help us be better all the time.
Well, I think when I was here in school, I also worked on campus. So I worked at the library, I worked in the admissions office, I actually answered the switchboard a lot. So that connected me, and I think not only the faculty here, but also the staff is very important because I not only learned from the faculty I had, but I learned from the staff that I worked with in those locations.
This is probably going to be a difficult question, but over the years with your involvement with Rio Grande, can you think of something that was particularly memorable?
I think for a Rio Grande country girl that was raised on a farm, it was very important that I was able to get out of the community. And Bob Leith was the history professor, and he took us on a lot of trips. So, you know, we went to the battlefields. We went to Pennsylvania, to Gettysburg. We went to Virginia. And I think those really stick out as being an education. The other thing that really sticks out is that there were a lot of students from the East Coast at the time I was here in college. And I see more integration of the campus at this point. And I think that's very important because they learned from me as a farm country girl, and I learned from the big city students that were here. So that was also a part of my education.
That's great. Well, that's wonderful. Well, we appreciate all of your involvement with the college, with the Board of Trustees, and with just being I'll call you a cheerleader for Rio Grande because
well, I like being a cheerleader, so that's fun to be called a cheerleader.
You always have a positive note for Rio, and I think one of our strengths is that we always want to be better. We're never satisfied with where we are.
Right.
Where can we go next? What's our next step?
And student success is very, very important. You know, enrollment and retention of students, but making sure that students are successful. And I think as a board member, I always, if I have a decision to be made, it's students. What's best for students.
And that is our bottom line. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for joining us on another episode of the Voice of Rio Grande.
See you next time.